Hi everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. Today I'm going to be talking about Everywhere You Don't Belong by Gabriel. This is a fictional book and it's a coming-of-age story following a black man named Claude who is growing up on the south side of Chicago. Claude is kind of like this awkward kid, awkward teenager who is dealing with a lot of stuff. He is dealing with some grief and abandonment issues because his parents left him in the care of his grandmother. He's also just like very uncomfortable and has a lot of anxiety. He doesn't know how to interact with other people, basically. There's a lot of really awkward but kind of funny dialogue scenes that take place in here where he just is either brutally honest or he just doesn't talk at all and people don't know what to really do with him. He's really introverted and nerdy and into books and he wants to study journalism. And so part of it is just sort of what you would consider a slightly standard coming of age story, but it also is about growing up on the south side of Chicago where there is a significant amount of violence and trauma as well as underfunded schools and just underfunded communities in general and lack of support in that area. There's discussions in here about gangs and gang life in terms of what it's like growing up and seeing a lot of your friends and classmates fall into that life and sort of the reasons behind that. It's not all the same. It talks about race and racism and a race riot takes place and sort of the impacts that has on this individual family and on this specific neighborhood. There's always I feel a discussion in terms of when these riots break out on sort of the city as a larger whole, but you don't really often see the story of the specific neighborhood where this breaks out and sort of the consequences of that effect, and also the aftermath of what those sorts of riots and damages sort of do to these people and their lives. And people die and get hurt and stuff like that, and you hear about it when the event has occurred, but you don't really see the aftermath of those events. And this book sort of explores that too. The book is broken up into two parts, and the first part is Claude's life growing up through high school, and then the second part is when he decides to go to Missouri for college. And so you see Claude struggling with leaving Chicago and being in a completely different sort of town. He goes to MISU, the University of Missouri, because it's a really great journalism school, but it's in this small town in Missouri. And so obviously that life is extremely, extremely different. So he talks about his experience there and joining the newspaper, and he continues to be this socially awkward person, completely unsure of what he's doing, and you follow life from there. This book is extremely slim, and so it does cover a lot of these topics from a sort of higher level, but I feel because you're following Claude who lives in these neighborhoods, it also feels very authentic and genuine to what that life is like. Gabriel Bump himself grew up in the south side of Chicago, so the stories feel very authentic, for lack of a better term. And so the fact that it doesn't do any sort of sociological analysis on any of this feels really accurate, because when you're that age and you're living that life, you don't have that sort of larger perspective or point of view or anything like that. But there are points in here where Claude provides these really poignant descriptions of why people are making the choices that they make, or sort of understanding why you want to leave or why you want to stay or anything along those lines. I feel it perfectly captures this very singular experience in this very slim book in a very beautiful way. This book is also kind of funny. I have a hard time with funny books because I feel they're very hit or miss. And so I wouldn't say this is laugh out loud funny, but there are parts in here that are very just comedic in terms of the observations. When I was reading this book, it reminded me a little bit of the TV show Atlanta, and the way that some of the things that occur in there are funny, but they're not over the top funny. It still feels very true and authentic to what that specific part of the Atlanta experience is like. And I feel this book kind of captures something very similar. Some of the exchanges in here and some of the conversations are just very ridiculous. There's a lot of characters, true characters in this book. They feel very unique and unto themselves, but at the same time it feels these people really do exist. So yeah, I feel this is a book that's simultaneously really hard to explain because it feels so unique and unto itself. And so I feel going into this expecting anything really is going to set you up for failure, because I feel there's no way to really expect what this book is. And it's beautiful because like how rare is it that you actually get to experience something like that, especially if you are like me and you read a significant number of books every year. Like it's very rare to be surprised by a book, and I would say like this book was surprising in the sense that like it was nothing like what I thought it was going to be, but also like I feel like I haven't really read that many books that are quite like this at the same time. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I would say it's like 3.5, 4-star rating in terms of like Goodreads rating and stuff like that. But I really appreciated it because it's like a really great unique take on the coming of age story. Obviously, as someone who has grown up in the Chicagoland area, I'm biased for any book that takes place in Chicago. The sort of like thing that like docks it down in terms of being a true like 4-star or 4-star plus book is like things get a little out of hand towards the end of the book, and I obviously can't get into spoilers as regard to it, but the stakes get raised a significant amount at the end of the book in a way that felt kind of unrealistic. But again, it also kind of felt like a TV show that was like sort of amping things up over the course of a season and then, you know, went wild a little bit at the end. And so this book kind of does that as well. But I don't think it amped it up in a sort of realistic way, or not realistic, but sort of like a gradual enough way. Like it sort of feels like this book was at a 4 in terms of like tension and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden it's at like an 8. So that sort of jump like felt a little bit weird and is the main reason why like I docked it down a little bit. But otherwise I overall like really enjoyed this book. So yeah, something a little bit different and something that I don't think a lot of people have on their radar, but I would recommend. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Everywhere You Don't Belong. Let me know down in the comments below what your thoughts were on it if you read it, or if you have any questions, feel free to leave that down in the comment section as well. So yeah, that's all I have for now, and thanks for watching.